Hey y'all, it's Melissa here at Twin Oaks Family Farm in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. We're going to look at the meat birds 19 days old. CornishRockCross Meat Chickens on day 19, 430 of them. And I'm sure you can tell just from my appearance, you know, this is kind of intensive work, and the higher the temperature is, the more intense the work is. So if you've wondered how much time does it take to just do the basic chores for 400 meat chickens, wanted to fill you in on that. So about 2 hours I've been out here working on well check and basic chores for this flock of chickens. So hey, there's the dogs. There's Tanner and Gus. Tanner, say good morning to the people. So anyway, we are recording on a Sunday. This is June 30th, 2024. Fixing to turn over a new month on the calendar, a new quarter on the fiscal year, halfway through a calendar year, and it's hard to believe. But we're in our third flock of CornishRockCross Meat Chickens for the year here at our place in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. Call it Twin Oaks Family Farm. We sit along a little creek called Wolf Creek in the southeastern part of Ohio, and we raise these meat chickens. Hold on just a second, y'all. Hey, Tanner, we want you to get out. Tanner's got a nice bandana, though. Isn't that nice? Okay, Tanner, you got to get out. Go. We got to take a moment, get Tanner out here. Out. Thank you. Okay, so he's learning. He's a puppy and he's learning. But so these meat birds, was going to tell y'all, well, we're not in this for the money. We don't make a lot of money doing this. We do strive to make a little bit of a profit. We do strive to make a little bit of a profit, but truth be told, there's not a lot of profit margin in it. And at least not for us, at least not at this scale, and at least not at the price points that we utilize. Jeez, you guys are jokers. Hold on, y'all. Sorry about this. Get out, Gus. Okay, sitting there's fine. Out. Okay, we'll come back to that train of thought, but looking at this feed, was going to mention, so that was 2 complete, what we call skids or pallets of feed. So the feed itself is in 50-pound bags. That's what we feed them. It's 22% protein. We try to feed it start to finish. It is for meat birds. It says medicated because of an ingredient called amprolium that's in it. Amprolium triggers the medicated label, but amprolium is a coccidia preventer. So coccidosis, you guys are just real cute dogs. Coccidosis can affect poultry, can affect lots of kinds of livestock. In fact, coccidosis can affect dogs and puppies too. Coccidosis, a lot of people call it a parasite. It's a protozoa. So, you know, it is kind of it functions kind of like a parasite if it gets in your animal. But coccidia is basically like inflammation, particularly in the intestinal tract. And then it can express, it actually, not going to go too far into this, but it actually can express in 3 ways. Let me see if my brain will draw them up. It can express in the joints, musculoskeletal. So you would see it maybe in the joints. It can also express ocular in the eyes. Would cause eventually blindness and a gray. You'd see kind of a gray coloring to the colored part of the eye. And what's the other way? Oh, well, and just in the intestinal upset. So, you know, runny manure, basically. But coccidia, sorry, we got a dog train again. Hey, out. Nope. Good boy. He'll learn. Thing with puppies is patience and persistence. So if we persist and persevere with him and have patience, puppies learn. He'll train. But anyway, so on the coccidia, yeah, it can express in joint inflammation, ocular inflammation, and intestinal inflammation. Okay, so Coccidia actually is a naturally occurring protozoa in many soils. And in our part of the world, our part of the United States of America, it is prevalent in the soil. Producers of other kinds of livestock also manage for Coccidia. I don't know that they manage it with Amprolium as a preventer, but that's a common way to manage for it in poultry. So even like egg production birds would be exposed to Coccidia. Typically, they might be fed an Amprolium in their feed, or feed with Amprolium as an ingredient. Egg production birds, they might be fed that like the first, I don't know, I mean, I'm just throwing out a number, but in the beginning, like the first month or something. And then they would just be switched over to like a lower protein grower that probably wouldn't have the Amprolium in it. But our meat, and then with the egg production birds, chances are they would be exposed to Coccidia and would actually clear it and fight it off and continue to grow and it not be an issue. And then they're done with it. But with meat birds, their lifespan is so short because the production length is like only 5 or 6 weeks. So actually, what the issue is with them is, hold on, y'all. Tanner, out. Nope. You gotta turn around. We gotta go out. You're not staying in here with the chickens. They don't want you in here. I don't want you in here. Out. Good boy. Okay. So the problem, thanks for bearing with me, y'all. So the problem for meat birds with Coccidia is they don't live long enough to have the immune system kick in. No. Out. Stay out. No more. Not right now. You don't need to be in here right now. So the problem with meat birds for fighting off Coccidia is their production length isn't long enough for them to develop the immune system to the point where they fight it off, clear it, and it's no longer an issue. And then we've already wanted to send them to production, so it becomes, a null point after that. And the other part of it that's a problem for meat birds is if they, get Coccidia exposure and there's no help in their system like the Amprolium to fight it off, then while we're wanting the nourishment from their food to go into growth, that nourishment from their food is having to go into fighting off Coccidia. So, what we would have contributing to them getting rate of gain, growing, converting feed to meat, and distributing meat accordingly, what we would have going to that instead, if their body's having to fight off Coccidia with no help at all, then that's where our feed is going. Okay, so we do opt to use a feed that has Amprolium as an ingredient. That is what triggers the medicated label. It's being applied as a Coccidia inhibitor, Coccidia preventer in meat birds. There's no residual in poultry from the Amprolium. So what that means is it's not leaving trace residual in the meat. So we can feed it with confidence that it's not tainting the product. It's not tainting the food. It's not tainting the meat. And then with poultry, and there's withdrawal times in general on food for production livestock animals. Like you're going to send an animal to butcher, or you're going to even process it yourself. You need to pull feed a certain amount of time before you do that for 2 reasons: to empty out the digested food so you don't have manure all over the place when you're butchering and processing, and also to prevent, like in poultry, to prevent them taking in more food that would actually not end up getting through the digestion process and would be undigested food in the crop. So you want to eliminate both of those things with poultry. So you actually pull all feed from poultry about 18 hours before they go to processing. Okay, So when we're pulling the feed, we're also pulling the amprolium, and so that in effect is creating a withdrawal time from that ingredient for them. Okay, and if you felt concerned about it, you could just take them totally off the amprolium ingredient at some point in production and finish them on something else that doesn't have it. But at any rate, wanted y'all to know about that. That's what that's about. Coccidia is in the soil. A lot of animals are exposed to it. We've heard of puppies that have gone to the vet with upset stomach, and vet diagnosed them with coccidia. And then, you know, I don't know if they treat it or if it has to run its course. In dogs, I'm not sure. We've not dealt with that personally. So anyway, so it's not like some monster thing out there. It naturally occurs in a lot of soils around the world, and it does occur here. So it's something we need to manage for, and we've found that to be the most effective and best way to manage for preventing that being a problem for our birds. So, but what I wanted to tell you really on the feed is there's 2 skids there, okay, 2 skids of feed. So the taller one is still 40 bags. A skid or pallet is 40 bags that are 50 pounds each, so 2,000 pounds of feed. So we bought 4,000 pounds of feed for this flock based on 10 pounds of feed per bird start to finish. So they should consume all that. It could happen that they wouldn't. We're monitoring feed consumption rate. It seems like they're on track to consume it all, but you know, we'll see. Time will tell. We'll know when we get to finish. But there's about 18 bags left here. So I actually expect, I already put out 1 bag. I really expect to put out 2 more bags today. And so we're on track. Even at about 2 bags a day here, that'll get us out to about July 8th. And if they're eating 3 bags a day, 150 pounds a day, if they're eating 150 pounds a day by July 8th, then they'll complete that pallet by July 21st when we pull feed. Feed will come away on July 21st because they go to the processor on July 22nd. So for this flock, July 21st, when we take feed away, will have been 40 days of production, okay? And so we had a little more bad news. So we started with 434 birds, and now we have 430. So we lost one on day 6, we lost one on day 15. They looked like, you know, just healthy birds, but, you know, either they got, like one looked like it got under a pile of birds and ended up, you know, basically smothered itself from wanting to be under a pile of birds. They were around an area near a feeder, and we kind of corrected feed replacement after that, thinking hopefully that'll help that. And the one on day 6 just looked like failure to thrive, just in the sense that maybe its organs gave out, because it was a nice sized bird. It wasn't a runt. So day 6 and day 15 we had a single loss each, and then today what I say today is, can't even remember now. I think it's day 19. So we had one lost this morning, and we actually had one lost last night. And as I was pondering that, working around the pen here, here's what I think has happened, and we're going to correct for this because I think it's something maybe we can help. Both of those, last night and today. Okay, see how this bird is laying way propped up on its side? So if that bird chooses to like preen and reach its neck down at its underbelly, it's going to probably tip back some. And if it tips back enough, or even if it stretches this leg that's up on top, if it stretches its leg or preens in a funny way or something, it could lose its balance, roll over on its back. If it gets on its back, it's not going to be able to get back up. If somebody's out here, we can scoop it up and turn it over and everything will be okay. But if nobody's out here to save it, then it's not going to be able to breathe if it gets rolled over on its back, and it's going to end up in mortality. So I'm thinking the one this morning and the one that we found yesterday, I'm thinking that's what happened, because there had been no sign of distress or unwellness in those individuals at all. So what I'm thinking we need to correct is we've used we've still used deep litter bedding. Okay, so like I'm going to just use my shoe and kind of try to get this, you know, like I can dig down a decent ways in there, and I've got loose bedding, okay? So we call that deep litter bedding, where we've got bedding and we just keep putting bedding on top. So that's what we've been using. We're using deep litter bedding, but we've used a shallower deep litter bedding with this group than we've been using previously. And I'm thinking that, you know, they're getting it more packed, and when a bird like lays in it and rolls, it's not cushioning them. It's not like holding them up and providing like a stop, you know. So I think if we get it more cushiony again, I think we'll get a little more of that stop measure that kind of helps, you know, when they dust bathe into it, instead of them just rolling everywhere because it's kind of packed underneath them, maybe that will, they'll cushion down into it, and it'll kind of, you know, cushion around them and help with that. So today we don't upload on Sunday. We typically don't even record on Sunday, but today is a Sunday, like I said, June 30th, 2024. So I can't correct it today because the farm supply place, you know, we get stuff from, isn't open on Sundays, and I don't want them to be open on Sundays. Honestly, I wish I lived in a world where nothing was open on Sundays. I remember a world in, you know, where I live where nothing was open on Sundays, where I lived when I was younger. I think we were all better off. I think we're all better off when we set Sunday aside and respected that, and gave families, you know, a day to be together, a day that the culture wasn't pressing on them to go out and do something. I know that's not just the way it is anymore, but that's, you know, I'm okay with that mindset, that they're not open on Sundays, and I don't wish them to be. So as far as me correcting bedding, I can't do that right now because where I get the bedding is not open on Sundays, and I wouldn't change that for a thing. So we'll have to wait till Monday, but I'm gonna go through and fluff this bedding, so that'll probably be about another half hour. So my original question was, and then I get off talking about all the things with these birds. You know, my original question was, did you ever wonder how long it takes to do chores with them? So we've had 2 hours in it. And so I had to do it by myself this morning. My guys, actually my oldest son just come in. He drives a delivery truck for a produce farm on Saturday and Sunday, and that's a part-time job in addition to his full-time job through the week. So he was out of here, like he might have had to be at work at 5:30 this morning, and he's back now. And then the rest of my guys, so my husband and my 2 younger sons, they had poured some concrete yesterday, and I'll see if I'll get this right, for a columbarium. So it's like a base at a cemetery for a structure that will hold urns and ashes of deceased people. So they poured the base of this yesterday, so it's still got the form work around it, the form boards. So they've got to take the form boards off, and that concrete needs a cut. Sometimes you need to put an intentional cut in a pad of concrete to kind of control any potential future crack. If you put a cut in, instead of it just cracking randomly in the concrete, if that concrete pad was going to crack somewhere, instead of cracking randomly in the pad, it should crack in that crack you already cut in it. So it'll be a neat intentional crack instead of a random mishmash crack, okay? So anyway, but it, you know, that concrete sets, and then there's an appropriate time, there's kind of an appropriate time to cut it, and they want to get the form stripped off of it at the appropriate time. So they went to do that. So I was on my own for chores. So to refill waters and feeders, to clean up the trays, and get check on all the birds and get everything taken care of in here, it took me 2 hours by myself. Part of that time today was we did make a little adjustment over here. I'll show you. We were letting the birds have the entire floor space over to this doorway. I decided, my family wasn't for this, but I decided to pull this in, to cut that space off, okay, and put a temporary wall here out of our crates and pull the birds over here, because our doors here our big doors here, we need them open because it's been hot days. They open in. They open into the barn. So we were just opening them and putting a row of these crates right here in that big doorway. But that's a pain in the neck because then you got to move the crates in, open the doors, move the crates back. It's a pain in the neck. I didn't like it. So I told the family, I said, y'all help a lot, but I'm usually the one opening and closing those doors, and I don't want to do it anymore. So unless they come up with a different option, which they may, because my husband was really not in favor of me taking that floor space from him, from the birds. So he may come up with a different solution. I said, even if you built a panel like that scrap panel is set in there, I'll try to show y'all. Like this scrap panel set in here. So even if we built a more permanent panel like that and then made sure that opening was all paneled in and had one over there. Or I said if we had paneling like that, that's in that doorway, if we had that paneling all the way up, I'd just leave the doors open. And they, we'd take this wall back out and they'd have all the floor space. And I just leave those doors open because it's going to stay warm enough now for the duration of this flock that we could do that. So my husband he's pretty handy with tools and lumber, and so are my sons. So they very well may come up with something and we'll be able to open the floor space back up. But I said that just, it takes me so much time to deal with that. So that took a little time today, setting that wall. But we want to have these doors open because it's about 90 degrees out. And these birds right now want to be about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, no hotter. It's too hot. If it's hotter than that, it's too hot for them. They want to be about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. In about a week's time, they're going to want it 75. So if we have this airflow, it makes it feel cooler inside the building than it really is outside the building. So we got to have the doors open some way or another. So anyway, so doing that for today, that allowed me to know I can have those doors open. If I need to close them up tonight when it cools down, I can close them up without having to move a bunch of stuff. And for now, for the size they are, this is still enough floor space. I'm actually going to close up these doors right here. There was strong sunlight coming in, and there's going to be strong sunlight coming in from back there, so I may close those. But we're getting a good breeze across the north-south doors, so they'll be okay. We'll watch them and make sure everything's going okay for them. But it took about 2 hours this morning. Like I said, now I'm going to fluff bedding, so that'll take about a half hour, so make it 2.5 hours on chores with the 400 plus meat birds today. So it is a time-consuming thing, and I had mentioned to y'all that it's not a big profit margin. Hey, Tanner and Gus. It's not a big profit margin, okay? Hey, so we don't, the dogs are right there. They want to join us too. We don't make a big profit margin from doing this. We do make a little bit of a profit margin, but with all the things that can benefit the birds, we do recognize you have to put some of that money back into the operation. And so we do. But, then of course that's money that you would have been like, oh, that was profit. So there's not a huge profit margin at this scale that we're at and at the price points that we stay at. We try to make our poultry affordable because we still can't make it the discount price of a supermarket, but we want people to be able to experience and know and enjoy really wholesome poultry. So we really, as far as taking time to do this, we have a passion for wanting to produce excellent poultry, and we have a passion for wanting to provide excellent care and quality of life to the livestock during production, and we have a passion for wanting to promote agriculture in general. That's part of why we have the YouTube channel, to just be able to say to people, hey, we hope that you're eating real food. We hope that you're sourcing it from farmers and ranchers and producers in your area, wherever you live, and we hope that you will support local agriculture where you live. So, it's wholesome food, and the closer it's sourced to home, I mean, it's just really better for everybody. You get more nutrients in the food. It's not using as many resources to haul it around and transport it around. And it's keeping money and cash flow in your community. And that's really, really very important. On our channel, we don't typically get into the political climate around all of us, but it's volatile. The political climate in our country, I believe, is volatile. And I think right now is one of those times when it's worse, because we're leading up to election. We just had a debate, between some candidates, and I'm just not going to go there. But and there's forces that are trying to change our money system. There's forces that are trying to change our heritage, our awareness of our heritage, our recognition of the history in this country. There's forces that are trying to manipulate things and manipulate people, and a lot of those manipulations are hurtful. And so the ways that we as common people that love our country and that want to help our people in our community and want to work together, the ways that we all can make a difference is use real money or barter, keep your resources local, and support the local businesses that are trying to thrive in your own area. So, we believe that even though that seems like small things, those are the grassroots things that create strength at a community level, and those are the things that ultimately will fight these volatile forces that are trying to be manipulative. Ultimately, it's growing in faith and hope and charity and drawing closer to Christ, and that's what we believe ultimately is our saving grace. But as far as getting through the day-to-day, in our country, United States of America, and navigating the volatile political environment, we've got to strengthen our communities. I think it's my opinion. We've got to strengthen our communities. So one way you can do that is support the people who produce the food, because it nourishes us. Okay. So, and even if you have a local grocer, I know they're trucking things in, but if they weren't willing to do that and assume that risk for that business, for that local grocery, maybe an independent grocer, you wouldn't have it. And we'd have to go further away to a big supersized store to get our things, to get what we need. So if we don't want our lives to turn into that, we have to strengthen at the community level and household level and community level. And we have to support producers in our area and put our resources there. And so, that's part of why we have this YouTube channel, is to encourage that. But it also is an opportunity for us to show people, what does it take to produce 400 packages of boneless, skinless chicken breast? This is what it takes. If we could take this whole flock, we're going to take this whole flock to the processor. We could have them made into, hopefully we end up with at least 400 birds. Okay, our processing appointment is for 400. We ordered 425. We got 434. 19 days in, we've lost 4. Hopefully we won't be below 400 on July 22nd when we go to the processor. But we could take all of these to the processor and get 400 whole chickens, or we could say, processor, we want them made into 400 packages of boneless, skinless chicken breast. That'll leave us wings and packages of drumsticks and packages of thighs, and here's what we want done. So either way, if you've wondered if you'd even be curious, what would it take to make 400 whole chickens? What would it take to make 400 packages of boneless, skinless chicken breast? And so each package is cut into 2 pieces, but it's the chicken breast off of 1 chicken. This is what it takes. All these things that go into our videos that we show you here on Twin Oaks Farm Poultry, that's what it takes. So what you're seeing right here in front of you and checking in with us on our videos, and you get to see how the flock is raised, and the investment of time and the investment of money and the care that goes into it, you're seeing it. This is what it would take to produce 400 packages of boneless, skinless chicken breast. So when you sit down at a restaurant to a plate of chicken breast, or when you fix some chicken over the Independence Day holiday at your home place, that's what's behind it. Some farmers' sweat and effort went into that chicken, and if it was a small farmer, I can promise you a lot of tender loving care went into that as well. So check back in with us often. This flock is 19 days old and doing great, and we hope that your chicken dinners will always be winners. God bless y'all.